Superhuman dance. I am ready.
How you doing, mate?
Good. How's the sound?
How's the what? Sorry.
How's the sound?
How you doing, mate?
Is it reverbing? Good. How's the sound?
You're a little bit loud for me, but I can turn you down on my end. One second. I'll just have you one second. If you just speak for us, mate.
Testing.
A bit more.
Testing.
Right. I think that's about right. Okay.
You could just share your desktop screen if you want to use my camera.
All right. All right. I wasn't even planning on I thought I was just going to do it on voice debate. And then just obviously have it as a voice debate on YouTube. I don't know if I can get your camera on here without everything going to hell.
Do you use OBS?
You just lag the hell there, mate.
I'm lagging.
I don't use I would normally use the virtual cam, but I haven't got it up and running, and it would have to set us back another 20 minutes. It's just
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, we could just do it like this. It's fine. So
is that okay?
yeah, it's fine. So I can't see your camera though. Hold on one second. I want to try to so we could have a good recording for afterwards. 1 second. Do you have a camera that you could turn on for Discord as well?
No, not really.
Okay.
I was going to say I would normally use the virtual cam and then I could do both, but unfortunately I can't do that.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Yeah, I'll just shut this thing off here, and then we can use my screen for any text that we want to write down or anything like that. So, okay, yeah. So yeah, you contest the. Do you contest the flowcharts still, or the flowcharts I made? Do you remember them from a couple, I think it was a year ago? Something like that. Oh, did you disconnect? Are you there, bud? Am I here? Oh, shit. Guess there's some bad internet connection here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Superhuman Dance does have a channel.
Oh, I fixed it.
Fixed it. Sweet.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why it disconnected me there.
Your channel in the description as well. So
Okay, great.
You wanted to discuss specifically a new proposition you have for us, isn't that right?
Well, it's not that new. It's the same one from over a year ago. I messaged it to you, and you answered yes, then no on the flowchart, and that would arrive in, and it arrived in. It's sort of notoriously on my channel. It's notorious because and hilarious because you landed in perspective philosophy, PP the Hurricane, on the flowchart because you thought you had as much control over your genitals as you did over the a hurricane slamming into my house.
I don't think so. I don't remember saying that.
Oh, it was in the back and forth text on Instagram. There's a document of it. It's titled "Master's Degree in Philosophy versus Antinatalism" or something on my channel, something along those lines.
Right, no problem. Are you sure that I wasn't talking about the outcome of a pregnancy? Because that sounds about
absolutely
right.
Sure. I delivered the flowchart to you in the risk section of the flowchart to you. Here, I'll bring it up on my screen if anyone wants to see. And we could just go through it again. You could change your last view if you want. I mean,
I don't know if I've got any issues with my view.
Okay.
Last time, I don't think I made anything.
Well, I mean, obviously you do if you're changing it now. If it's completely different from what you answered then, in the flowchart, you answered yes, no, no, And then
So for example, like my position has and always will be that having children is a ethical issue that should be approached as such, but does not have any special case. There's no special case for having children that would make it like, for example, make antinatalism true, because antinatalism is a universal. You know, it's always wrong to have children, whether and I don't believe that. That's basically what I'm arguing.
I mean, I'm not even making any claims at the end of the day. I'm just asking of your values. Okay, that's the only point where like coherence can actually work from, anyways, because there is the benchmark is ourselves, right? Like you agree that it's like, I mean, you don't even have to agree to that. Ultimately, you could think it's objective or subjective or whatever. It doesn't matter. It just sort of starts from the point of like, I guess we'll just start over again, since you're being kind of unclear about your old positions. So I was expecting you to be quite obtuse. It's the usual, but it's okay.
I think I'll try and be as clear as possible.
Do you want to get behind the PP the hurricane thing, or would you rather?
Why don't we just go through your thing? I mean, like PP the hurricane makes it sound like some sort of really good boxer, so I don't mind keeping that.
Good what? What'd you say?
Like a really good boxer. So
I was thinking more like PP, like Pepe, the the same thing as like dingus hurricanes, I was thinking something like that, because it has to do with your genitals, like if you're in control of them or not. And
take it any way you like, but like let's just get into the proposition, shall we?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so risk. So I mean, all right. So do you think that risk happens? Not that I'm not asking you if it's bad or if it's good, or if it's ethical, or if it's not ethical.
There is such thing as risk.
There is such thing as risk.
Yes, there is such a thing as risk.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. So are you okay with the practice of procreation for yourself? And I mean that in practice, like as opposed to theory.
You broke up just at the end, so you mean that, and then you broke up.
I mean that in like practice as opposed to theory. Are you okay with the practice of procreation? Not sure where it cut me off exactly.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how to. Right. So when you mean the practice of procreation, for myself, I mean, I guess the only issue is like, do you mean like ever, or do you mean in this like exact time of my life?
Well, so you could. It just starts from a point of like, I'm asking you for some kind of certainty. If you could just give me like, well, I mean, like, which point do you not understand on the question? Like, which word do you not understand on the question?
Oh, no. I'm just saying, like you said, do I agree with the practice of procreation for myself? And we had talked about that, how you meant, like whether I would be willing to reproduce. And that's fair enough. The only issue is like, do you mean like ever at all, or do you mean at the specific time? So like, I'm asking like, is it a general question? Like, am I okay with reproducing at any point in my life? Or is it like at this moment in time, like right now, would I be okay?
So is which part of the question do you have a problem with exactly? Because I mean, it just says, are you okay with the practice of procreation for yourself?
Then I'm just going to say yes, but not right now, if that makes sense.
Okay. So it's like but you're certain that you may in the future.
I'm certain that I may in the future. Like, like if given the right circumstances, I'd be okay with it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. So I have the risk flowchart up on the screen for anyone on my channel if you guys want to check it out. So it's just, you think that risk happens. Are you okay with the practice of procreation? Yes. So you land in natalist, so you're okay with the practice of procreation. Okay with procreation. Are you okay with your future progeny being every possible human being that could ever exist? Now we're getting down to it, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Of course not. That's why I would want to raise them to have certain values. I mean, that's the point of parenting. Like, you wouldn't just, like, no parent in the
But
world
you're
would
not going to be
okay.
controlling them, right? Like, you're not
Oh,
going to be
no,
able to control all of your future progeny. You're going to be dead. So they
yeah,
could
well,
be
yeah,
anybody.
well, I think there is some reason to say that it's unlikely that there'll be like certain people. So for example, I think that it's highly unlikely
Sure.
that your future progeny will turn into like Adolf Hitler 2.0.
Sure. Well, they could. I mean, given enough time, it approaches 100% infinitely. Like it approaches it gets to like 99.99999% that you'll make like something that's strongly analogous with Hitler.
I don't think so. I really don't think so, because I think that that's a very.
How do you know? Like, can you see into the future?
No, it's more of the fact that, like, I think that for you to be able to say that it would approach 100%. Like, I agree that I can't.
Well, that's just a statistical fact. Like, that's a probabilistic fact, right? Like,
I disagree with.
Given enough time, anything approaches 100% chance.
What should I call you again, by the way? You superhuman dance.
You can call me Greg or whatever you want. Right. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So I get what you're saying. Like, I couldn't know, which I agree with, and I think that's a valid point. But what I'm saying is you couldn't know that the probability would reach 100%, because I would argue that determinism.
Well, I'm not claiming to know.
So,
yeah, I'm not claiming to know.
I'm saying that
so why would you argue with something that I'm not claiming? I'm just saying
what you said is that the probability will reach 100%
possible.
eventually.
I said it'll approach 100%. I did not say that. No.
I'm saying that there is no that we cannot use a probabilistic discussion to discuss the likelihood of someone turning out.
Yeah, I said it would approach. It would approach
beyond like the socio-political like climate, where we go like, all right, well, people usually don't like. It's not like a deterministic way where you're like genuinely going to have any knowledge of whether someone would turn.
That really doesn't matter whether it's free will or determined or something in between, compatibilistic. None of that really matters at the end of the day. That can all be granted, right? You agreed that risk happens, not that it's like. I mean,
yeah,
so that's all that needs to happen.
And I accept that there could be a risk of your future progeny being a bad person.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's, not even ultimately what I'm saying. I'm just asking you a question and you're answering, yes to it. So like you answer yes at the beginning and you're saying, so to this, you're saying no, you're not okay. Are you not okay? Or are you okay with your future progeny being every possible human being that could ever exist?
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
You are okay with it.
I'm as in like it depends on what if you mean I'm okay with it as in I accept that it's a possibility, but I would try and educate. Obviously, I would try and pass on the values that would make that less likely. As in, I would try and pigeonhole my future progeny into a ethical life. You get me?
Right. Okay. Yeah, I understand. It's so you're answering yes, then yes, and so the problem is so would you be okay with them being a child rapist?
No, I wouldn't be okay with them being a child rapist. No.
Okay. So that would be a contradiction of your values, right? Because you're saying you're okay with the practice of procreation, then you're not okay with your future progeny being every possible. Then you are okay, with your future progeny being every possible human being. And then you're not okay with them being a child rapist.
Well, because I would put on a level of responsibility on them, so I would say that they as a human are responsible for their actions, and so should not commit child rape. This are rational, capable individuals.
Yeah, but you're not going to control whether or not they're rational and capable individuals, right? You can't see into the future.
We're going to have a criminal justice system, we can have, we can try and parent.
Yeah, that doesn't stop people like Jeffrey Epstein and, all the people that paid him as well.
You get bad people now and again. It's a part of the risk.
It's not just now and again, right? Like it's happening. It approaches 100% chance. Approaches. I didn't say that it was a 100% chance. In probability, it approaches 100% chance. It gets to 99.9999999% chance eventually, after a certain degree of generations.
I don't think that's necessarily like I don't know if that actually, like you said, if we'll grant free will, I don't think that actually coincides with free will. But like even if so,
We can grant. I think we could grant all that stuff. Why don't you think we can grant all that stuff? I mean, it's pretty clear. I think that we can. We like all you're saying at the beginning is that risk happens. It doesn't whether or not it's free or not.
If you grant free will, and if you grant free will, then talking about the probability of a person turning out, in 4 generations as being, a murderer or something, as being approaching like 100% seems a bit, what's the word? Question begging. It's just like there is no reason to believe that they would. What I can say is like in terms of causal effects upon them, the concepts.
Where are you saying I'm question begging?
It's not like so like that the probability of your child becoming the future progeny in like a million years, one of them will be a child rapist would approach 100%. I'm saying I don't think that you could make that claim.
Well, I'm just saying it could. It
But
could approach 100% chance.
A possibility.
Yeah,
So
that's what the question says. It says, are you okay with your future progeny being every possible human being that could ever exist? So it's perfectly coherent.
Well, that part is fine. It's when you said that they will most like that it will approach 100%. I was saying like no, like that part is like ad hoc. There's no reason to say that they would or would not approach that likelihood.
So you're saying it could go away from that as well. It could go like the opposite direction, like maximum reasoning type thing.
No, but what I'm saying is that it comes down at the end of the day to the free will of the agent. So, for example, my future progeny.
Well, no, it doesn't. Not if you're in control of, if you're okay with the practice of procreation. I mean, all this starts from you, right? It starts from your perspective. It doesn't start from their perspective. You're part of the chain, and you could stop the chain now.
Yeah, you cause their existence, but you don't cause the actions that they commit within their existence. For example, if my child,
well, technically you do. If you agree that it's your progeny, from yourself, then yes, that's it. It would actually be.
I don't think reality when you say your progeny, it's not like progeny. It's not exactly like ownership. It's not that they are actually objects spouted from me. It's that they are their own.
Well, some people think that too. I'm not claiming that. I'm not claiming that they're objects. What'd you say?
I said they're stupid, aren't they? But the thing is that like what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, all I can really say is that they're rational, autonomous individuals who make their own decisions. And so if they decide to commit crimes, it's on them. If they decide to be, good people, it's also on them. I don't get the credit for that, Really, all I can do is try to gear someone up to live a good life for themselves and for society.
I think a lot of people would disagree with that. People take credit for their children all the time, just the same as like they take people place blame on people for their children all the time. And I think that would be a big point of contention. That I think on a larger scale, I think it would favor what I'm saying.
Well, I don't think that it favors anyone. I think we'd have to get into a free will debate about that. But I think that I mean, it's incredibly complex because what we're really talking about there, if we really deep dive into it, is the socio-political phenomena that develop a human psyche, and then how an individual will approach that in relationship to their own choices. So it's like, I think that you can be responsible for bringing a child in. So, for example, if I know that I live in a society full of cannibals, then I know that the likelihood of birthing a cannibal is going to be much higher because of the concepts which are going to be causally impacting that psyche are going to escalate. So the available possibilities and probabilities from the individual to act are likely going to push someone towards cannibalism. But it's very possible that you could birth someone who's like, not only not a cannibal, but actively rebels against that. It's the same thing that could happen in our society. You could be the best parent in the world and you could produce a serial killer. It's unfortunate that people
I think there's a lot of speculation behind that, and but
Well, I think that's the way that works. I think that's just the way.
I don't think that it's relevant. Is the point that I'm making?
I think it is, because I think when you talk about probably producing like a serial killer or a child rapist, because
like statistically, it is very high, like given enough time, which it doesn't seem like there's any like end of the human civilization on the horizon, with any kind of without like wishful thinking. So there's really, and I mean, I wouldn't want human civilization to end ultimately first. I'd want like us to get rid of all the other stuff. But that's not this is irrelevant, right? Like I view this is unintelligible to me. You're obfusing, sort of making it unclear. You're trying to conflate it with like free will and determinism, but free will and determinism aren't relevant to the discussion, right? Like that's if I get nothing else across.
It's only relevant because you said that the probability of having a child rapist would approach.
What probability exists? Like you agreed at the beginning. Listen, hold on. You agreed at the beginning that risk happens. But if risk happens, like that happens regardless of determinism or free will. Then, if you think that it happens,
I think risk is 100% a thing. But then saying that something probably will happen is separate from saying that it could possibly happen. So, like when we talk about risk, it comes in. There's grades of risk, right? There's like that's the point I was raising.
The reason you don't think that it's a contradiction is because what? Just be really clear for me. Like, what is the reason you don't think that yes, no is a contradiction? For what reason? How is it not a contradiction? Because I mean, it's a combination of things, right? You're answering yes and then no. The relationship is progeny and procreation. Progeny and procreation are like highly they're strongly correlated. You could even say that they're causal, and no one would contest that. Like your progeny are caused by your procreation. So where is your contest against the contradiction that you're landing in? You're saying that it's not a contradiction. Let me just state clearly the contradiction. It's just okay with offspring and not okay with offspring, right?
Well, actually, the contradiction was
or okay with procreation and not okay with procreation. Either or. It could be any of the above.
Would I be okay with the possibility that my child or future progeny could be any possible human? And I said I would be okay with the possibility of them being any possible human, which means that I'd be okay with the like 0.0000001% chance in theory of them being the worst person that could have imaginable, and the same for the best, and that there's probably a gradient in terms of where they would land, and that comes down to their actions and it comes down to our society, and there's a lot of socio-political kind of
those things are very unstable. Societies change all the time.
One second, I haven't finished. Sorry. So that was like the first point. That was like the second point you said. When you said yes. So that was the second yes. The no was, would you be okay with your future progeny being a child rapist? Now, I said I would not. Now, for two reasons in that respect. I wouldn't be okay with them being it because I would hold them responsible for their actions, and I know that they could know better given the concepts that were available to them. They're free autonomous agents and so have committed a wrongful action. And then the second thing I would say is, so in terms of morally, disagreeing with that, child rape is wrong, take responsible for yourself, don't be a child rapist. The second thing I would say is in terms of them, it conflated possibility with an actuality. Am I okay with someone like the likelihood of let's say the possibility of
No, you're mischaracterizing.
No, I'm not mischaracterizing.
It's mischaracterization. I mean, would you like me to clear up?
Like if I've somehow mischaracterized you, please.
At no point am I claiming that it's an actuality. I'm saying that there is the contradiction is it's a 100% risk of a risk. Okay? So that's the actuality. And you're agreeing to that. You agreed, just to be really clear, you agreed to that at the beginning when you said that risk happens.
So you're saying there is am I okay with the risk of that happening?
Yes.
Yes, I'm okay with the risk of that happening.
Okay, so you're okay with the risk of your future progeny being child rapists?
Yeah, just as I'm very hopeful that they won't be, and I'm also very hopeful that they'll go on to cure cancer or something lovely as well. Life has risk reward, right?
Yeah, but look, they that we could get into a whole thing like that. This is sort of just where it lands in is so you are okay with it now. So before you were saying you were not okay with it because you didn't understand that it was a 100% risk of a risk.
It was a risk, not an actuality, which you so delightfully cleared up.
Right. So you're saying that. So you answer yes then in the flow chart. It's on my screen, by the way, on my channel if anybody wants to see it. He answers yes, then yes, and then to the question of
risk,
of like his future progeny being child rapists, he answers yes as well. He's okay with them being child rapists.
I would like to point out, though, just for clarity, that it is a restatement of the second premise. So the first one was like, the second one, was, are you okay with the possibility of your future progeny being any possible human? Like the risk of your the risk of your future progeny being any possible human. And I said yes. And then you said, well, what about this specific kind of human? And I said yes. Now, there's two ways I can look at that. You're either
it's not even really a specific type of person. There's all kinds of different people that rape children. Like it's terrible.
It's like horrible. Like, but someone that's a specific type of person, as in a criminal. Someone.
No, there's actually no like really hard data on like a caricature of what a person that does that.
Characteristics. I'm saying that their actions, the person that they are, is defined by their behavior, right? Like anyway, but the thing is, what I'm saying there is that it's a restatement of the second premise. Now, there's only two ways to look at that. You've either restated it for clarity.
What premises? I'm not making any premises. What are you talking about? There's no premises. I just asked you questions. These are your values.
Yeah, but okay. It's
you are the benchmark. Yourself is the benchmark. It's not me. There's no premises. So you're obfusing the whole thing.
Greg,
right?
no, I'm not. I'm saying
yes,
that it's
you
a
are.
statement of the second premise. So that's all. Like the third,
what premise?
The second question.
What premise? Your premise?
It's a restatement of the second question.
Well, premises aren't questions.
And yes, I'm aware of that, Greg. There's no need to be like very literal. Like obviously, I'm referring to the flowchart from which we are engaged in right now.
Yeah. So your premises?
No questions, Greg. I've cleared that up.
Okay. All right. Well, it wasn't clear. It wasn't clear. I'm just asking.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm just saying that it was the same question again, because obviously that is a possible human who would be in question 2 rather. So when we talk about it, there is only really two ways. There's only two reasons that you'd bring that up. There's one for clarity, to make sure that I was well aware that that was one of the possibilities, or two, you wanted to state it as if I was okay, as in morally accepting of that situation, whilst I clearly am not and would condemn it.
Okay, but you are okay with the risk of the risk.
Yeah, you have risks, and I would not want it to come true. It's like, for example, I'm okay with driving a car. It doesn't mean I'm okay with people running us over. Like,
you could just answer no to the first question then, right? Like you could go back and answer no and just be not okay with procreation. And then you could actually stop the risk 100%. Like it. I mean, a lot of people would agree.
You could stop risks. For example, like there's risks as part of life. Like, so for example, driving cars, like I don't think that everyone who drives a car is akin to a murderer, for example, or even akin to doing something that was wrong and reckless. But then there is a risk of running someone over when they drive a car. That risk is an acceptable risk. And I think that it doesn't undermine the value and the utility.
Okay, so are you saying that is analogous with the first question? Driving cars is the same as procreation?
Absolutely.
Okay, so getting in a car is the same as reproducing a human for you?
In terms of risk. In terms of risk
as well. Well, like, look, so you're saying we could just plug in, are you okay with the practice of driving for yourself? And that would
Yeah,
be,
but are you
that's
okay with the
we.
practice of
Right.
driving?
I
Are
would
you
argue
okay
that
with
this
the
is weakly
possibility
analogous, extremely
are
weak,
you
right? Like this is weak.
are you okay with the possibility of any incident that occurs when driving on a road? Yes. Are you okay with having a car crash? Yes. And then obviously it's just like, are you okay with risk? Are you okay with risk?
Well, no,
Are you
there's a big distinction
over
between
and
like
over again?
reproducing offspring and driving a car, right? So it's
Yeah,
those
no,
parts.
but in terms of
So,
I'm
and
saying in
that's
terms of risk, it's
sufficiently,
not.
right. You're saying it's weak. Yeah. So like, look, technically you're weakly analogous with like your feces, but that's not a great description of your feces, and you, right? Like that's not a great description of you. Okay, so you share like 70% actually of your DNA with feces, but you're weakly analogous with feces, right?
Yeah,
So like it's not a really strong argument, right? Like I don't view you as being feces, even though you are weakly analogous with feces. So like the point of what I'm saying here is that we have to have a strong analogy with procreation if we're going to establish say that it's like driving a car. It's got to be strongly analogous, right? And you're not saying that it's strongly analogous. You're saying it's weakly analogous. And even if you are saying that it's strongly analogous, I mean, I could say that you're strongly analogous with your feces because you share 70% of your DNA. You know what I mean? But like ultimately, look, that's irrelevant, right? Because you're not feces, and just like the procreation is not it's not driving a car. All right.
Yeah, I get you. I know what you're saying. I guess the point of analogy was at the point of risk. So there's risks and rewards to drive, and there's risks and rewards to having future progeny.
Look, like it's weakly analogous is my point. Okay, weakly analogous. All right, extremely weak.
Let's move to the next point. Sorry.
Well, I mean, if you don't want to concede that point, we could stay on that one. I mean, it's like it's just weakly analogous, right? Like to say that some risk is, it's the same thing as like Norzak the Corn Lord. That was his rebuttals to this, right? Like there have been thousands of rebuttals. By the way, if anyone wants to join, I debate this every Sunday at 12 noon with absolutely anyone who joins. It's 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Anybody can join who contests anything that is being said. If you want to set me up with somebody, I'd do that as well. But look, I think that it's weakly analogous. Your rebuttal is one of weak analogies. So you're changing you're abusing here. But it's okay. I understand.
Wait a minute. Yeah, you understand. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So obviously, so you get the fact that really what I'm highlighting is that all you've done is highlight that there is risks to like the behavior of having children. And all I'm saying is that, like, yeah, unless there is a difference between, what's the difference? I think this is where the argument has to go. You now have to demonstrate, let's say, the difference between, let's say, one risk and another. And what would justify, for example, the risk of going outside and the possibility. Are you vegan? You are, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. So we would both agree that there is a risk of harming, let's say, insects when we go outside. Unfortunately, it's not something that we can necessarily avoid, or if we could avoid it, would necessarily agree that it wouldn't be ethical.
Your mic went out.
Oh, right. So what I'm saying is that the risk of going outside is a negative in terms of the fact that we could get run over, or we might stand on an insect, or I don't know, some madman might run up and they shoot or something. It happens, right?
Okay, so you're making an analogy for the first question, right?
Well, I'm just outlining what risk is.
Let's just plug it in.
I'm not making an analogy yet. So what I'm saying.
Well, that's the only thing you can do in philosophy. Like if I ask you a question, right? If I ask you, are you okay with the practice of procreation for yourself? All you can do is make an analogy of that. And your analogy initially was driving, and you want to abandon that one now.
No, I don't want to abandon anything. I haven't said anything necessarily other than...
Well, you've changed the subject. That's the equivalent of abandoning it.
No, I'm not changing the subject. I'm entirely on the same subject. What I'm talking about is the concept of risk in ethics. What I'm saying is that all behaviors have risks, so all actions in the world have risks. Okay, they all have risks and they all have consequences.
Do you think that all risks are the same? I mean, obviously not, right?
No, I don't. No,
But
I don't.
so,
Now, what I
but
want
you
to
think
say-
that some risks are strongly analogous with other risks, correct?
Yes, I think that
Okay,
there are
so
risks that
what
are
is
worse
it that
than
you're saying that is strongly analogous with the practice of procreation? Because I don't think you've delivered anything that is strongly analogous with the practice of procreation. Clearly, you haven't.
No, I think that it is.
Right.
I think that the act of procreation is a deeply ethical like question that one needs to ask themselves. I think that it comes with a lot of risks and a lot of rewards. So it's quite a profound ethical dilemma to be in. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that we should abandon it because it has high risks. If it has high risks and high rewards, what we have to kind of do in this scenario is show that it's an unjustifiable risk to take, and that's the burden of proof that's on you.
No, it's not. I asked you questions. This is all on your own behest.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's the burden of proof to prove antinatalism is on the antinatalist.
No, it's really on, like, ultimately I would argue that the burden of proof is beholden by the person who is bringing the being into existence, practicing procreation, who's answering the question. The person who's
I think
answering
that
the
there is-
question
I would agree that there
is
is a
making
burden of proof
arguments.
on the person bringing another life into being as well.
Yeah. Well, no,
So-
period. Like, that's the only thing. So
No, I would say that, like, look, the antinatalist is saying that it was always wrong, that they are trying to, put forward a universal principle.
look, I'm not even saying, I don't make any claims. I'm not stupid enough to make claims. I don't do that.
think
Actually,
that-
frankly, like, I try to disassociate with myself with most of the antinatalist community because they're mostly deranged and mentally ill. And I don't, and
I would like to,
yeah,
like,
and
wait a minute, I'd like to
demented.
posit that, right? Like, so for one,
look, like, I don't
I've
want
spoken
to,
quite a
I
few
don't need any of
antinatalists
that
who
on my
are-
side, is what I'm saying.
I've spoken to quite a few antinatalists who have been very well educated,
Yeah.
very, very intelligent, and very capable, and certainly not mentally
Sure,
ill.
those things are,
so-
well, look, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there are ones that aren't, right? But everybody
even
has their own
if
flavor of
all men-
crazy, don't they?
don't-
I mean, everybody has their own flavor of crazy, huh?
No, but, like, even if they are mentally ill, that's no justification to dismiss someone's position, is it?
No, it's not. But I mean, ultimately, if you are saying that I'm making claims, that is a position to definitely dismiss what you're saying. Yes, because I'm not.
Okay, so you're not making any claims. What you're trying
No.
to find out whether I would personally be okay with having children possibly one day, and I have said yes. So why is it
I asked you, are you okay with the practice of procreation for yourself? You said yes,
yeah.
and then I asked you, are you okay with your future progeny being every possible human being that could ever exist? And you answered yes,
yes?
and then I asked you, are you okay with them being child rapists? And you said yes.
No, I said I'm okay with the risk. It's a restatement of
Yeah.
question 2.
Well, that's where
So
we start.
all
I mean, this is all in the flow chart, right?
makes me seem like I am being. Oh yeah, I'm
Risk.
absolutely fine with someone being a child rapist. I'm not okay with someone being a child rapist. I'm okay with the risk of having children and the likelihood that someone in that group of children very well may go on to be criminals. It's unfortunate. We should try and prevent it. It may well not be preventable, but we should try. That doesn't mean I'm okay with it. It just means that it is a possibility that one must accept if they ought to have children.
Yeah, it's a 100% risk of a risk.
So I'm okay with the risk, yes. And now
Yeah,
that's the
and-
way that you
and-
say it. But what
And
really,
it's a
that's
high.
what
I mean, its
for-
approach is 100% chance. It's not some kind of trivial risk here. We're talking about you producing
not
somebody who
100%
rapes
chance.
children
And
or
I'm
who
going
gets raped by
to
children.
double
I mean,
question
by people.
Unless you can give us
It's-
a reason why it would approach 100% chance. Like what's the justified
Statistics.
would?
There's
Stati-
there's heavy statistics on this. Like it's that doesn't even, like, ultimately that's a factor, like how quickly it will happen. But the contradiction takes place when you're saying it's 100% risk of a risk. Okay.
Since there is no ability to predict human behavior, even on a large scale, then there is no way that you could say that it will inevitably happen. So we can't do this in economics. We can't do this in sociology. There is no social science that has been able to predict human behavior. So
Just to be
where
really
are you
clear.
generating this probability that it will approach 100% from? Because the best social scientists in the world haven't managed to do that.
because it's that's just probabilistic fact, right? But anyways,
But
listen, like that's like a you know,
and what statistics as well? Where are they?
yeah, I've already provided those multiple times on my channel and everything. But my point, so there's a lot of stuff to hash out here that you're saying, right? And there's no way to hash all of it out. That's sort of like your strategy, I guess, in a lot of cases, is to just pile it on, but that's fine. I mean, I understand that. It works for some people. I don't know why, but it does apparently. But the whole point here is that there's 100% risk of a risk. Okay, it's not that it's not that there is a even the statistics, even if they were hypothetically, like if they like were pathetic, but they're not, right? Like they're like insane. They're, I mean, obviously it's extremely sad and everything that this stuff happens, but like it's like what I'm saying is like even if they were really rock solid, like 1 in 10 or one, I mean, even if they were even if it was in favor of what you're saying is what I'm trying to say here.
You mean if there was a high likelihood that they would not turn out to be
Yes.
like a negative outcome? Okay.
Yes. So we could grant what you're saying, right?
Which
and
is
the
where we went
ultimate
last
show
time,
that it
wasn't it?
doesn't, that it's totally unintelligible and doesn't make any sense. We could grant what you're saying, right? Like it's 100% risk of a risk.
We did this last time, didn't we? We basically got to the point where there was like a 0.01% chance of the worst possible outcome and like a 90.9% chance of the best possible outcome. And I said that is a justifiable risk to take. Unless you can show me once again that you have an instantiated position which justifies that we should not take that risk.
Well, look, I think that just being okay with a 100% risk of producing people that get child raped is definitely like that's enough. I mean, at the end of the day,
I mean, there's a 100% risk of a risk that every time I go outside, that a meteor may fall on me and like just kill us. It doesn't mean I shouldn't go outside.
look, if you think that that's analogous with the first question, then deliver it as an analogy to the first question. Don't deliver it like it's some kind of knockdown to what's being said now.
No, I'm saying
Because
that
it's not. It's obfuscation.
In terms of when we behave in the world, in terms of risk, we need a theory which differentiates certain levels of risk.
Meteors are weakly analogous with procreation.
And those are not acceptable. Now, that's what I'm asking.
Risk of meteors dropping on your head is weakly analogous with risk of,
what risks are acceptable?
Practice of procreation.
Which risks are unacceptable is what I'm asking, and why?
Okay. Look, in my view, personally, not like with any kind of, I don't have to justify any of this stuff. And I'm not going to have an argument about this during this thing. I mean, you landed in, I'm guessing you're landing in yes, and then yes. Do you want to stay with that? Like, yes, that you're okay with them, 100% risk of them being a child rapist, just to be really clear.
100% risk is 100% of a risk.
Yeah, 100% risk of a risk, yeah.
But that is the same as number 2.
Number 2? What do you mean?
So question 2 is, are you okay with them? Are you okay with the risk that your future progeny could be any possible human being? And I said, yes. And then you said, are you okay with them being this specific kind of human being? And I said, I'm not okay with them being that human being. Like, as in, I would condemn them and ethically, I would say that they were horrible.
It's all in the context of risk, right? It's all in the context of risk. I mean, I have an entire flowchart for this, where there's correlating lines and everything.
It's a risk. So just to clarify, I am not okay with anyone being a child rapist or anything disgusting and horrible.
Well, you are. You're okay with it, the possibility of it, and you wouldn't stop it if you did. If given 100% chance to stop it, you wouldn't stop it, right? Like in terms of like not procreating.
100% chance of stopping myself being struck by lightning to never leave the house. I'm also not okay.
You don't have as much. Okay, so do you think you have as much control over being struck by lightning as you do over your genitals?
What?
Yeah.
What?
What? I mean, you said it, not me, dude. How much control do you have over? Do you want to be PP the lightning rod?
I mean, like, yeah, why the hell not? Look,
PP the lightning rod now. PP
get it.
the
No, I
lightning
get it.
rod. He was PP the
what you're
hurricane. Now he's PP
saying,
the
like,
lightning rod.
there is a
What
point.
is
There is
that?
a point.
Somebody timestamp that.
Look,
Oh.
there's a point that you're trying to make, and that this is a serious risk, and we have a lot of control over whether we engage in that risk or not. Which I agree. I think that's actually a solid position. Like, look, like, you know, there's some real bad consequences of having children. Like, you know, and we need to consider it carefully whether we do or not. But I think that position, you could come out of that, you know, that deliberation and go, yeah, actually, you know what, it's worth the risk, and that be rational.
Okay. I mean, you use this word rational all the time, all over the place. That means like at least 20 different things. So look, all I'm asking you is from your perspective, right? Your perspective philosophy. If you're okay with the practice of procreation for yourself, then are you okay with your future progeny being every possible human being that could ever exist? And then you answer yes. So I ask you, I mean, you could answer no like you did before, and then we could go down that path, but you're changing. So that's fine, though. To change your views is fine. I encourage people to. That's why I'm on here doing this. Like I am like up to being persuaded. It's just that no one has ever persuaded me otherwise. But like if you answer yes, then I ask you, would you be okay with them getting child raped or being a child rapist? You say yes, you'd be okay with it because it's a 100% risk of a risk. Yeah, but that's in the
possibly happening.
Right.
There is a
that's
separation
granted.
between would I be okay with
We're
it. That
in
is
the context of the risk flowchart. We're talking about risk this whole time.
Then be clear.
Yeah.
Because
it's 100% risk of a risk.
So, and I think it's deliberate. It deliberately paints the individual as being accepting of a circumstance from which they would be actually unaccepting of, and see it as a negative. They actually see it as
they're accepting of the condition. They're accepting of the condition. The notion that they're not accepting of the condition is incoherent. They are accepting of the condition.
Greg, if I may, what makes it a risk in the first place is the likelihood that there would be negative outcomes. Now, they aren't like when you engage in risk, you aren't okay with the negative outcomes. You do it in spite of the negative outcomes, which is why it's a risk. So when someone says, I'm okay with the risk of, let's say, someone getting run over when I drive my car, that doesn't mean that they actively are okay with someone being run over. It means that they accept that there is a level of responsibility and of how they must drive, and also like how when they engage in that behavior, that there is always the chance that it could happen. Now that's separate to going, oh yeah, well it's okay if it happens. That's a separation.
How about we just stick on this point for the rest of the time? I mean, I already view this as being knocked down, but we can do it again, right? So, are you okay with the practice of procreation for yourself? You're making an analogy. You're saying.
We'll just move on to the fourth question now.
Why do you want? I mean, you want to stick to that particular topic? Like, let's just stick to your point. I mean, we could just stick to your point for the whole time.
Well, I really think that I've made my point clear again and again.
No, I mean I've been clear, right? Like that I don't view you as strongly analogous with feces, but you share 70% of your DNA with feces.
Because you keep saying that.
Yeah, but look, like practice of procreation is not the same as driving. Practice of driving. Anyone understands that. Anybody that isn't a like crazy person completely understands that. Look, I understand what you're saying. You're saying it's logically the same, right? But something being logically the same isn't like strong, isn't super strong argumentation by itself. It has to also be practical. It has to also be corresponding. Okay. And particularly what you are saying is that it's corresponding. Your claim is that it corresponds. Okay. And practice of procreation doesn't correspond. It's not strongly corresponding with the practice of driving. Okay.
So
Because
like, okay, but
in
like,
the form
so
of risk, right?
what would you count as strongly analogous?
I don't
in
think
terms
there
of-
is. That's one of the main reasons I'm having this conversation is
Yeah,
because
and that's what I was
I
kind of
see
asking
the.
you, to be entirely honest with you.
I
Why
don't
you
think that there
separate
is anything that is strongly analogous with the practice of procreation. I don't think there is anything that is strongly analogous with the practice of procreation. Okay. And it's pretty clear that I mean, unless you want to say that it's strongly analogous, do you want to say that it's practice of procreation and driving cars is strongly analogous?
I would probably say, like, if I was to take something that was strongly analogous, I would say that maybe it's the decisions made by like medical professionals. I could say that the practice of procreation was similar to that, or maybe the decisions made in government. But that doesn't mean that, like, say, for
Medical
example, when the government sees
professionals,
a risk,
government, and this is a
that
lot
they
of stuff. Like, let's just hash out the one thing, okay? Medical professionals. So, practice of medical professionals for yourself?
yeah,
Like,
so
what?
it's
I mean, you
like,
think
yeah,
that that's
like,
strongly
as
analogous
in,
with procreation?
so like in terms of the risks and rewards that, let's say, someone in medicine or in the government, I think the government's a better example, to be honest. When the government acts in, let's say, let's take whether the UK government acts in a certain way or not, there's a risk reward ratio depending on their actions. Now, there is always a risk of things like war. There's always a risk of things like famine, and other horrible circumstances. Now, that doesn't mean that the government shouldn't act, because when they don't act, there is also the risk of other negative circumstances. So there's a compulsion there. Now, then if there is also the risk, if you don't have a child, that there could be negative outcomes as well. There could be, the lack of a younger generation. There could be, and things like that. It's whether those risks and rewards balance out to say that you are justified or unjustified in having a child. Now, what I'm saying in terms of, let's say, like having a child, I think that we can come to the conclusion that having a child was not at least the wrong thing to do. Whether it was the right thing to do or not depends on circumstance, but I don't think that you can always say that it is the wrong thing to do. Now,
I'm
it
not.
seems like
I
you want to
didn't
argue
do that ever. Listen, Lewis, that's a mischaracterization. I never said that during this discussion, right?
No, but you're arguing for anti-natalism. Am I correct? Or do you not argue for that?
Well, look, like that, it's even the Wikipedia definition. There's no definitions inside of any books for this stuff. I mean, inside of any, inside of any dictionaries, there's no hard definitions for antinatalism. You're aware of that, right?
Well, I think that the way in which antinatalists approach it, and I think that there is a separation between antinatalism, pronatalism, and simply understanding it as an ethical issue. And I've talked about this with other antinatalists before. And it's
Well, yeah, one invokes meta ethics and metaphysics, and a lot of times people are too stupid to understand that. So, listen, like every time you say the word ethical, you're invoking metaphysics. You're invoking meta ethics. Those are not things that I'm claiming, and you're putting words into my mouth, Richard. I mean, Lewis, I didn't say these things.
For example, Seven of Swords, vegan anti-natalist, and question mark, like Mark, who runs the anti-natalist podcast, or Steve Godfrey. All of those guys have been really educated, really intelligent.
I completely disagree.
And well, I don't. I think that they're probably they're very smart people. I think they're very smart people.
Yeah, but they don't get you to say that you're Pee-Pee the lightning rod.
No, that's true.
Yeah, but you said that. I didn't say that for you. I can't hear you. Your microphone's breaking up.
Sorry, what is question 4?
Question 4?
Yeah. What's question 4?
Yeah, I mean, what they like, do they corner anything that you're saying? No, right? No, they don't.
I think that they've gotten me a lot. Like, so for example, really managed to push some boundaries in terms of make some real headway in terms of talking about the ethics of existence itself. I don't think that necessarily came to the conclusion on his side. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think that